Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are so excited today. We have another author interview with us today. And we always love talking with authors. Today we have Toni Shiloh here. And Toni, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes. We like to do when we have a new guest is we like to get to know you a little bit better and tell us a little bit about how you got started writing and what inspired you to become a writer.
Sure. So I kind of did a non-traditional route of writing. I went into the military right after high school, and then once I was out of the military, I went back to school, got my English degree, and it was while I was taking literature classes that I went ahead and took some creative writing, and I was like, this is really fun. I really want to do something with this. And I was a little bit nervous because, my teachers were saying, oh, you're writing so great, but you assume that people like that are biased. Pay to tell you your writing is great. So I entered some contests, and then eventually I decided I would write a book from start to finish instead of always starting. And that's how I came to be.
Wow. So did you grow up as a reader, would you say, or was that kind of later as well?
No, no, definitely grew up as a reader. I always had my head in a book.
Yes. Did you always enjoy romance?
Yes, I'm kind of eclectic, but I always prefer to have romance. So whether it's suspense or historical, as long as they're romance, I'm there.
Hmm. So you decided to uh, write your first book. How did you go from that sort of point to actually getting it published?
Great question. So I, of course, had many rejections in the beginning, and I ended up choosing the self-publishing path, and I decided I knew nothing, and it was the wrong path. So I kind of like panicked, and then went to the traditional route, and I started out getting published by small press publications. And then I decided I liked both journeys and I knew a little bit. So I've kind of been treading the hybrid waters ever since. So I'll indie publish as well as have books published traditionally.
Hmm. So when you got the small publishing deal, did you just sent them your story or how did that happen?
I had submitted this story called Returning Home to a small press publication. And they said yes. And they signed me up. And then a few months later, they folded. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I sent it to another company. Meanwhile, a lady I had been talking to online, she was like, hey, I'm starting a publication company. Send me what you have. And I had already sent Returning Home. And I think it was like to a person that says, don't send it to multiple places. So I was like, well, I have this other book. So I sent her the other book that I had written because the whole thing they tell you every time is once you finish the first book, keep writing. So I've been writing this whole time while I was, trying to figure out who could publish me. And she's the one who ended up publishing my Maple Run series. So it was 4 books. And then I ended up publishing the other one and returning home on my own because that got some rejections.
Hmm. Yeah. So do you what's the process like for as far as editing and getting your books ready as for you to submit them?
So I usually what I do is I write the first draft. Um, I really have fun. I'm a pantser, so I don't plot. I really have
Hmm.
no idea where the story is going to go. I just let the characters tell me the story, and I'll send out a chapter at a time to my critique partners. And then once I'm done writing the first draft, then I'll actually go back and I'll look at their critiques. I never look at them where I am writing the story because I'm afraid like I'll freeze or the comments will throw me off or whatever the case. So once I've done the first draft, I'll go back, incorporate their suggestions, and then I'll clean it up, send it to beta readers, and then I'll clean it up some more, and then I'll either send it to the editor or to my publisher I'm working with, and then they'll start their whole process.
Yeah. How did you form your critique group?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually worked a few books without a critique partner. I kept trying to find one, and everyone was already paired up with somebody else or in a group. And then I was in this one Facebook group, and they were talking about critique partners, and I was like, I just pathetically wrote, I don't have one, thinking like, woe is me. And then someone else didn't have one, and like, hey, one of my friends was like, you two should pair up, and we're like, okay. Um, so we paired up. And then later on, another friend, she was like, I don't have one either. And we're like, hey, come join us.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then I found my third critique partner because she needed a sensitivity reader and she liked my comments so much. She's like, you have to be my critique partner. And I was like, yes, please. So, yeah, that's how I got my group.
That's so cute. You're like author matchmaking.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you're a pantser or a plotter. So you're a pantser, huh?
I am. I've tried plotting and I always feel once I'm done, like, okay, now that I know how the story ends, what's the point of writing it? Like, it's no
Hmm.
longer fun for me.
Yeah. So if you always wanted to write Christian fiction, has that always been an important part of it for you?
Yes, definitely. I didn't I didn't have any other thought in my mind. I was like, definitely wanted to do Christian fiction. I wanted to make sure that whatever I wrote would glorify God, um, whether it's light faith arc to, the heavier, deeper ones. I just wanted to make sure it all pointed back to Him. And it was never a question for me. I knew other people who had read my stories were like, I don't think you can fit in Christian fiction. And it was sort of like in my head, I was thinking, watch me.
You're like, that's a challenge.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
Uh, but is it hard to sometimes work that into the story and not have it feel uh, like
Preachy?
have it feel authentic to the characters?
No, for me, I feel like it's always authentic because I know my characters.
Hmm.
Before I start writing, I make sure I know like how they are in their faith journey, what makes them tick, all the ins and outs that makes a person a person. Um, and I feel like because I know them so well, their faith journey naturally grows.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think I've ever had someone tell me that it didn't feel authentic. So I think I do a good job of that.
Hmm. Yeah. So you've written for the Love Inspired series from Harlequin. What's
Mhm.
that like working with Harlequin and in that series?
I enjoyed it. I started with Harlequin by entering one of their contests to find more authors. I didn't make it all the way. I got to a certain point and they're like, if you could revise it and resubmit it, then we'll look at it again. And so I was like, I have nothing else to lose. Let's go ahead and revise and resubmit. And then I got the call saying they wanted to offer me a contract. And my editor there was super amazing, super nice. I recently changed editors, but she also seems super nice as well. So I enjoy them. They've got a great team that works together and kind of makes writing for them. It takes a lot of the pressure off for me.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about them in general, their company and working with authors and nurturing talent. It seems like they do a good job with that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's cool. It must have been so exciting when you got your first book, when you had it like in your hands, like this is
Yeah,
it. I did it.
definitely. And I geek out with every unboxing that I get. Like, as soon as I see the box, I'm like, I know what's in there. And it's the like, do I make a bunch of noise in the house? They'll have my kids rolling their eyes. Or do I like quiet, sneak away and open it by myself? I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
alternate, honestly. Like sometimes I'm like holding it up, going my precious, and other times I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
like
I
those are
know
my
I would.
boxes.
I'd be getting on Instagram and be like,
I do sometimes too. Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I'm like, look what I got. You know what's in there.
Yeah. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarky's podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarky's podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So now you have been writing for Bethany House Publishing, who have been supporting our podcast, which we so appreciate that. And they seem great to work with as well. And you have this, and I'm not sure how to pronounce Oloro.
Illy.
Yeah. These books. And how did you get the whole idea? Well, I guess we should tell the audience kind of what exactly this is and how did you get the idea for it?
Sure. So I've written 2 books in a fictional country called Illy. One is In Search of a Prince, right there, and the other is To Win a Prince. To Win a Prince comes out next month, and In Search of a Prince released in February. And it all started with In Search of a Prince. You know, I saw Prince Harry and Meghan Markle marry, and a lot of the people in the Black community were talking like, "Ooh, a Black princess," and I was like, "Ooh, a Black princess in a story, like." How would that work? What would that look like? And then, fast forward, I was at a conference, virtual, it was 2020. I didn't have a story at the time. I had just happened to hit that spot where I finished the story. I didn't have one already finished to present to them. So I was like, well, they say you can't go in there with an unfinished manuscript, but I'm going to pitch one I haven't written anyways. And so I came up with the princess story. I had done a little background of, African American teacher finds out she's a secret princess to an African country. And what would that look like? And so that's how I pitched it. And they were like, oh, that's interesting. If you write it, send us the first few chapters. And I was like, well, now I'm going to write it. Like, so I wrote the first few chapters and I sent it to them. I shortly got an agent afterwards, and it just kind of all happened quickly after that. The next thing you know, I signed a 2-book contract with them to write these 2 books. One of the woman who finds out she's the secret princess, and the second book is her best friend who accompanies her to Illy in the first book. I absolutely love this country. Even though it's made up, maybe I love it because I made it up. I don't know. But I love the culture there. I love the story of how she finds out, the story of her becoming queen, and then Iris' story. Everyone loved Iris from the first book, and they're like, please tell me she's getting her own story. And I'm like, yes. And it's a good one, if I do say so myself. Like, it was one of those places where I'm like, I don't want to leave this world. Like, I know I have to write other books, but like, can this be a real place? Can I go there?
Yes. Yeah. Did you kind of base it off of a particular place they were thinking of?
Yes. So I kind of did it like a mix match. The culture is definitely from Nigeria. I used the Yoruba tribe to base my cultures off in the country. And then I kind of looked at Sao Tome and Principe, how they are because they're an island. And then there's another island, Bioko Island, in the area. I just kind of modeled like the geography and whatnot of those places. And I just kind of mixed it all together and, called it Illy. And so let's see what we're going to do here. Looked at monarchies, colonization, how it affected, civilization in West Africa. And I just went from there.
Yeah, I think it seems like a really fun idea. And I had never heard of a royal story set in Africa. And there's so many of these, whether royal movies or royal books, that it was a very refreshing, smart take, I think.
Thank you. Yeah. Most of them are in Europe, and
Yeah.
I was like, well, let's go to Africa. Like,
Yeah,
I've
some
never been,
version.
so it's my way of traveling there.
Yeah, some version of Genovia. This is what we usually
Right.
get, Eastern Europe. Yes, some for they love the ovias.
Right. Yes.
Stories. and uh and so yeah, that must have been an exciting time. You get an agent, you're creating a whole country. I mean, that's I've never done that, so that's very cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I definitely made lots of noise during that time, much to the annoyance of my children. They're like, please stop. Like,
Yes.
if you scream Bethany House out one more time or talk about your princess books, like, we're gonna go away.
You're like, deal with it.
Yeah, basically.
That's great. Well, so you had the first book, In Search of a Prince. I haven't read that one, but I have read the To Win a Prince. Yeah, but that one is about Bree then.
Yes, In Search of a
Okay,
Prince is about Brie.
okay, because she's a character in To Win a Prince, obviously, and so
Right.
they are standalone. You don't need to in the grand tradition of romance novels. You don't need to have read any of the others to enjoy this and to enjoy To Win a Prince.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So tell us a little bit about To Win a Prince, and tell us a little bit about the story.
Sure. So Iris Blakely has moved to Aurora, Italy after visiting, falling in love with the place. Her deepest desire is to help impoverished women in the country. So she creates this business, it's a fashion business. She's going to hire a bunch of people to basically create a whole clothing line, women, men, children. And in turn, that's her goal is to rise their economic status in the country. But of course, I have to throw in some um, love interest who is, we'll call him a bad boy. It's pretty much what he is. He was the bad guy, one of the bad guys in Search of a Prince. He's been punished for his crimes, and one of his punishments is to consult for Iris and make sure she gets the business up and running. His storyline is very redemptive. He goes from being egotistical prince to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And Iris, she's very head in the clouds, dreamer personality. And so her journey is about being grounded in reality, um, and really focusing on what God's plan is for her instead of, making up all these dreams in her head and running off with them. So the two of them together, I absolutely love them. I love the chemistry between them. I loved Iris's inner monologue and outer, depending on if she put her foot in the mouth. And Econ just like won me over as a hero. I didn't realize I would love him so much until I'm writing his story and I'm like, oh my gosh, he might be one of my favorite heroes I've written so far.
So you had both of them in the previous book. They're both characters.
Yes,
Okay.
they are.
So how did you decide? Okay, these are the two that we need to focus on.
Great question. So when I wrote In Search for Prince, Iris just kind of, I won't say she took over, but when she's on scene, she's very on scene and you can't help but gravitate toward her. And I knew I wanted to tell her story. So it was kind of while I was writing In Search of a Prince that I'm like, who is the guy for Iris? And my brain wouldn't stop thinking about Econ. And I'm like, people are going to hate him after reading this book. Like, how are they going to love him if I write him as the hero and To Win a Prince? So I wasn't yet sure how I was going to redeem him, but I knew I was gonna like he was gonna be for Iris. So when it came time to write To Win a Prince, I think my biggest fear was like, would people stop reading and think he's too much of a mess not to continue. But I don't know, even when he was arrogant, I liked him. I might be the only one, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um
How did you come up with that name, Econ?
oh man, I have like a website, one of those baby name websites,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got different African tribes on there. And so I pulled it from one of those. It just sounded regal, but at the same time pronounceable because I didn't want to make it too difficult for the readers.
Mm-hmm. Was it hard to keep Econ likable with him being so spoiled to start out, and he's sort of complaining about his stuff being taken away, and he starts out in this kind of scandal. Was that hard, challenging to write?
Yes, definitely. Thankfully, my critique partners let me know if I made them too far past likable. Um, then I knew to pull back some of the scenes or explain it so that people can understand why he was having such a difficult time losing things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think for most of us, we're like, oh, you're complaining that you have, so much money in the bank. I would love to have that amount. But when you go from, tons of money to what someone would consider like a speck of money, there is that, um, riches to rags that I was trying to get people to realize, like, yes, he is spoiled, but he's spoiled because of his environment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it also created more opportunities for him to grow and realize how the regular people live and why he should be grateful for the things he's had.
Well, I think it also helps too that his father is so harsh. So, like, really, everything that's taken away from him is kind of a rejection of his father, by his
Yes.
father. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect thing to say. Definitely. And I think, like you said, his father, um, you love to hate him, if you love him at all. But it makes you understand why Econ is the way he is.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he wants to even take away his name at a certain point. Like, it's pretty tough.
Yes. Yeah. And that was one of the things I had decided was I going to redeem the father or just leave him like that, knowing
Hmm.
that, there are people in the world who never change.
Yeah, yeah. And so he got involved in the scandal with his half sister. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Was she in the first book?
Yeah, she's the Bree's secretary, royal secretary in the first book. So uh, not to spoil it if people haven't in Search of Prince. But yeah, she's the royal secretary, and no one finds out towards the end that her and Econ are related, and Econ's role in being one of the eligible bachelors for Bree
Yeah.
was orchestrated by Dio.
That must be fun to just, I don't know, to build up all of this intrigue, scandal.
It was. I was actually surprised how much fun I thought it would be. Because, normally I think, oh, that stuff's a headache. Like, how can you keep track of it all? And I admire authors who do it, but I didn't think I could. And then I start writing, I'm like, ooh, this is fun. Now I get it. It's like, throw red herring here. And,
Uh-huh.
could this person be um, someone who's, targeting Brie as well? Um, so yeah, I definitely had
Mhm.
fun with that.
Yeah. Well, and you have, I think, a lot of fun in the novel with Iris and Bree and their friendship throughout. That's kind of a fun dynamic.
Yeah, I love those two together. They're definitely friendship goals. And it was fun to bring Bree back because I knew people who had read the first book would be interested to see how her life was going as well. So I felt like every time they're together, it's like a big sleepover.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That you definitely felt that. And so Iris has this business called ASO that helps, basically it helps women sell their, like, their handicrafts and things like that. Is that right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so then Econ has to, as part of his community service, has to help her. And so you get some of that dynamic back and forth with her being his boss and everything.
Yep. Same office,
Yes.
no escaping each other. I was like, oh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. And Econ finds God in throughout the story.
Mhm.
Was that kind of a challenging part of the story to write?
It actually wasn't. So I wrote this story super duper fast, faster than any book I've written. And I was actually going through a challenging time myself. And so my constant prayer was like, for this story out of me. And it wasn't probably until like 70% on the way in that like I realized what Econ's journey was. I was like, oh, it's the prodigal journey. Like I had no clue. And if you're reading it, it's probably like obvious to some people, but as I was writing it, I really didn't see that's how he was going.
It's the prodigal story with a mean dad. That's
Right? It's probably the mean dad that threw me off and why I hadn't realized it at first. But once I did, I was like, oh wow, I saw what God was doing. And so that whole process, it felt really organic and it kind of felt also like out of body, like was really on autopilot going in my brain, like I have to finish this story before deadline. Like I had extended the deadline because of family life that was exploding around me. And so I was like, you have to finish this. Like there's no room for error.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and God showed up and poured that story out. And I loved it when it was over. I was like, this was great. Like, yay me.
Love that. And yeah, because he goes kind of just to be nice and to support Iris, and he kind of goes with a chip on his shoulder, and then the more he feels the spirit moving him, the more he gets invested. And he it was nice because he really does it on his own. I mean, aside from that first time, he's not
Right.
really pressured to, I mean, Iris doesn't really even know that he's doing it most of the time.
Right. And I think, I've read some books when there's a salvation story and it feels like one character is pressuring the other
Yeah.
person. And I didn't want to do that. It's not Iris, and I don't think it's really true to life. Like, I don't know, there's so many people who find God on their own. Yes, they may have had someone in their life praying that they would find God, but you have to do the journey on your own. No amount of pushing from other people will help. And oftentimes that's the thing that makes a person resist all the
Mm-hmm.
harder is if you keep pushing. And so I guess I wanted to show another way that you can show people God and not aggravate them with God, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yeah, you can like introduce, but then just let them have their journey. I think
Yes,
that's true. That's the kind that actually really lasts if they, if you find it uh on if you have to have your own at some point you have to have your own personal conversion.
exactly.
Yeah. Or
You
it's
can't
not.
have your parents' story,
No.
your friend's story. Like it has to be your own, or it's not going to be true and authentic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed. So you had some fun kissing scenes in this book. And that must be fun to write.
It's so funny because usually I feel really awkward with kissing
Uh-huh.
scenes. Like I don't know why I just do, and I'm all like, "Oh, is this okay?" I don't know. But this one, it totally took me by surprise. And then afterwards, I kind of laughed to myself. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this totally reminds me of my author friend Pepper Basham because she's like known for her closet kisses." So I kind of had a laugh about that. But yeah, it was one of those things where it just worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like silently, well, not silently. No one is in the house with me during the day, so I'm all cheering. I'm like, "Yay, you kissed her!" And then the next chapter happens, and I was like, huh, I didn't see that coming. But it's effective, it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, especially that first kiss, like you're saying, because I mean, there's that awkwardness because they do work together,
Right.
uh, and but she's interested in him from the very beginning. But again, she's now his boss, and she's just and he also has the scandal,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
what's gonna happen. And so I thought that was a lot of fun, and then the tension once they kiss once. And then just like, oh, you did it just you felt sorry for me? No? Oh, you didn't. You enjoyed it. Oh, I don't know. It's fun after that.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with these two. And it's great because sometimes I feel like some books are really hard to write. You appreciate the story afterwards. You're like, oh, it was so difficult to write, but I appreciate you now that you're finished. And then there are books like To Win a Prince where I enjoyed writing it all the time. I was like, these two are great. Like, I love them. I would watch them all the time if I could.
hmm hmm So if you were going to cast a movie for To Win a Prince, do you have somebody that you think would make a great econ, make a great Iris?
I do. I always do Pinterest boards.
Uh-huh.
Um, just because I'm a visual person. So usually that's like my first step. I'll cast my characters. So for Iris, I saw Jasmine Savoy Brown. I'm trying to think of like stuff she's been in. She was in the TV show For the People. She was also in the Scream reboot. Um, and then I can totally see the guy I have for Egon, but I honestly cannot remember his name right now. But he's on my Pinterest board.
Yeah, like Mark Taylor, I think would be perfect. I don't know if you know him, but he's very swoon worthy. Michael
Exactly.
Xavier. So I think Michael Xavier would be perfect for this to play Econ. He's got the smolder down, and so I think he would be just the right amount of angst. And
What does he play on? Because that name sounds really familiar.
yeah, so he's in a bunch of Hallmark movies. He was in one with
Yes, I
Tamara
know. I know
Tamara
exactly.
Mowry.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
who I think
Yes.
would also
Ooh.
would make a good Iris.
Oh, she would. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh. Yes, definitely.
either of
Yeah,
them,
she
Tia or
or
Tamara.
Tamara. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I could see Tamara because I feel like in her movie she's a little bit more bubbly.
hmm
And I feel like that's definitely
Yeah,
Iris. Yeah.
there's Michael Xavier did a movie for Lifetime last year. I can't even think of the name of the movie, but where he's he's putting up like a garland or something like that,
Mhm.
and and there's all the people at the store are like, you could take a little move it around, and they're like, you can take a
Oh,
little bit longer. They're all just looking at him. I'm like, who everybody would do that because he's so gorgeous.
yeah, he's good looking.
Yes. A Christmas you make it feel like Christmas. That was what it was. It was pretty fun
Yes.
movie. But he was also in a movie with Jordan Sparks for Hallmark
I
last
love
year.
that one. Yes, that
Yeah,
was such a great one.
Christmas Treasure. They had really good chemistry. I could even see both of them in this.
Yeah, Jordan
Yeah.
Sparks would make a good Iris
Mhm.
too.
Yeah. And I know she's been in some faith-based films and things like that. So that would work. That would work well. Um, so yeah, I think we could cast this really good.
Yeah, you've done an awesome job. Yes, I like all your suggestions. I'm like picturing it in my brain now.
The Hallmark, call us. We're ready to go.
Yes.
Michael
Yeah.
Xavier, Jordan Sparks.
Give us a casting director job,
Yeah.
please.
So when you're what does your family think of when they read the books?
So my mom she'll call and tell me like her favorite parts,
Hmm.
or where she's at in the book. My dad calls me too.
Oh, that must be fun.
It is. he's like, oh, I'm visiting Oloro Ile today. And I'm like,
That's great.
it's just, yeah. He's awesome. He passes out books to his neighbors and friends. I've had other friends are like, oh my gosh, I knew you when.
My sister just published her first like she's had graphic novels and picture books, but she just
Mhm.
had her first novel
Awesome.
this just literally this week. And my dad is so cute. He was like, "Do you have a copy?" He's like got like a whole box of them. Like, "Yes, Dad, I got a copy." It's cute.
But it's great, like when parents champion you.
Yeah.
I know sometimes people feel like they have to, but there are family members who don't read your book. So it's always great to see the ones who will
Hmm.
champion you. To book lovers convention recently, and my mom came with me and she was my assistant. So
Oh, cute.
um yeah, things like that, it just kind of, bolsters you and keeps you going.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially when it's such a sweet. It's not like it's got any steam or anything like that,
Right.
aside from kisses. You might be a little more hesitant. What's a steamy
Yeah,
book?
my husband, he'll pass them out at work as well. He's like, oh,
Hmm.
I need you to sign this one for, give me the person's name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
All right. Well, we like to end with some fun questions. So, first
Okay.
one, what is the best ice cream flavor?
Ooh, I'm gonna say matcha green tea.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know why, but I love it. Everyone looks at me weird in my house when I'm, eating green ice cream, but it's so good.
Yeah. There you go. What's your favorite color?
Pink.
Oh, cute. Okay. What music are you into?
Ooh, if it's not Christian, I'm listening to country station all the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah. Good. Okay. What's your go-to date night food?
Ooh, go to date night food. Mexican or Chinese?
Okay. What is your go-to date night activity if you're going out and doing something fun?
Movies or Top Golf?
What's Top Golf?
So basically it's like there's two ways. You can do Top Golf like Angry Bird style, where you just hit the golf ball wherever and it acts like a
Is it like a
Angry Bird.
driving range?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. But I I either call it like driving range via bowling style, where it keeps
Oh,
score, or the Angry Bird style where you can just hit it wherever and see what happens.
cool. I have no hand-eye coordination, very little. So I've never heard of that. That sounds fun.
I'm terrible at it. I can only win at the Angry Bird style because it requires no actual skill.
Yeah, there you go. Uh, so which do you like better, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Okay. Let's see here. Which do you like better, beaches or mountains?
Ooh, beaches.
Okay. What's your favorite holiday to celebrate?
Christmas.
Yes. I mean, it's hard to beat Christmas because it's like a whole season,
It really is.
where
And then
every other
when
holiday is just a day or maybe a week.
exactly.
Hmm. So, and I mean, with Hallmark, it's 3 months.
I know, I was just gonna say that's what I was gonna say. Like with Hallmark coming out, end of October with the movies. You're like, yay.
Yes. Yes, I know we're recording this in August, and I'm already starting to like get ready to prep and think about kind of what we want to do, and the season's going to be here before. Somebody was posting the other day on Twitter, only 2 more months till Christmas movies start, and I'm like, the panic begins.
I'm sure you guys will do great. You guys always do.
Well, thanks. It's a lot of fun. It's very overwhelming, but exciting. I mean, I think they're going to have the most movies they've ever done this year. It's going to be over 40, I think, over 42, which is what they had last year.
That makes
So.
me really, really happy. And like I'm like lighting up the glee inside. I'm like, yay. Like it's funny. I actually have an alarm on my phone. Just because, you know, sometimes you're going through the day and time passes you by. So I have an alarm. It's like Hallmark movie. That way
Yes.
I know to park myself in front of the TV on a Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting, and they've had such a strong August, and the September movies look great with the Mahogany movies coming out. That's very exciting, and so there's lots to kind of be excited for. It's just a lot of work, which is fun, and you know, I'm so lucky to be able to do what I love, but it's still a little overwhelming. Like,
Yeah.
but it'll be great. I am looking forward to it and dreading it at the same time. A little bit, just a little bit. But it's you can never with Hallmark, I think they have decisively proved you can never have too much Christmas.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, agreed. Yes.
Sums it up perfectly.
Yes. Well, what is your favorite Hallmark or romantic movie?
Oh man. Hallmark has so many good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love Jen Lilly. I love her movies. Especially it's the wine one and I can't remember the name of it.
The Paris Wine and Romance.
Yes, that one. Love that one.
That's a fun one. Dan Gianna is very swoon worthy in it. And I just love how she is like passing out wine bottles like as her calling card. It's hilarious. She'd be like, "Hi, nice to meet you. Here's a bottle of wine."
But like who's gonna forget that though?
Yeah,
no one will
that's
ever
true.
forget that.
That's very true. Yeah. But yeah, have you watched the Signed Sealed Delivered?
Yes.
I was gonna say you would love that.
Yes. I'm all there for the writer ones. I mean, honestly, I'm there for all of them, but definitely like the writer ones. Always watch the ones with my favorite, you know, actors.
I just
I
think
love the
that
Pride and Prejudice remakes too. Those are great.
the Signed Sealed Delivered, I think involves themes of faith better than anything I've ever seen. I think they do such a good job of making it natural and not preachy. And because the hardest thing I think about integrating faith into particularly film is that is to avoid making it a ministry.
Right.
Like because you want to always focus on the story. And if you're getting too focused on the ministry, then it can take over the story very, very easily. And I just think Martha Williamson does such a great job of telling the story and making it authentic to the characters, like we were talking about. You know,
Right.
Oliver's faith is just a part of who he is. And he doesn't judge people. He doesn't judge Shane for feeling differently or having her own, you know, journey. He's supportive of that. So I don't know. I just think she pulls that off. It's extremely difficult to do, as you know from writing.
Right. And like you said, it's all about it has to be integral to who they are. Like if you don't know your character and you don't know their faith, then it's gonna come off like you're preaching or selling something.
Because some of the faith-based films, they literally have at the end, like, join our ministry and join this movement and whatever. And I always feel like kind of like, oh, you missed the point of making a movie. You know, like if you want to make something for Sunday school, like as part of a lesson or whatever, then fine. But if you're really trying to make a movie, then you need to tell the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Story is very important. It connects people. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, very good. You answered all the questions.
Yay. Do I win a prize?
Yeah. You can keep writing great books.
Okay, that sounds great.
Very good. So, if people want to follow you on like social media or anything like that, how can they do that?
If you go to my website, tonishiloh.com, you'll see all of my social media links and you can follow me.
Great. Yeah, we'll have that all in the description. You all definitely should. And we'll have a link to purchase the book with our affiliate link. You definitely want to check that out. And all of Toni's books, you can check that out using our affiliate link. We'd appreciate it. And thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us. It was really great to get to meet you.
Yeah, it was great to get to meet you as well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Listening, let us know what you think about all the things that we talked about, and leave your comments in the comment section or on Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also on Goodreads. I'm over there, so take a look at that. And make sure you're following the podcast at Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews, 5 stars. It really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store, which has tons of fun Hallmark inspired designs. Take a look at that. And thanks so much, Toni. It was great to meet you. And yeah, we'll have to have you on talking Hallmark movies one of these days. That would be fun.
Yes, that would be awesome.
All right. Bye, everyone.